Hi everyone, and welcome to the Right-Click Tools 4.3 release webinar. My name is Chris Muster. I'm the CTO here at Recast Software, and today I'm joined by Brian Dam, one of the software engineers who works on the product every day. Brian is actually responsible for one of the more complicated features in this release, and he actually managed to slip in a couple of other features that we'll show a little bit later today. I'm also joined by Marty Miller. Marty's our customer success manager, and he helps our enterprise customers solve any technical questions that they have about the product. Marty influenced some of the work on the product. He worked closely with the development team to solve some of the proxy and agent type of issues that people are experiencing, and we'll talk a little bit about some of those improvements later today. Marty's going to be keeping an eye on the Q&A. So if you have any questions throughout the webinar, you can use the Q&A button inside of the Zoom application, and he'll try to get those answered in real time. If you're watching this on the YouTube live stream, you can use YouTube chat to ask your questions, and we'll try to keep an eye on those as well to get those answered. Keep in mind that today we're covering features specific to the 4.3 release, and in particular changes between 4.2 and 4.3. This is by no means a comprehensive look at what's available in Right-Click Tools. If you want more information about some of the other features inside of the Right-Click Tools, you can schedule a demo when you download 4.3. Or if you have specific questions about the product, you can use the Contact Us form on our website or use the chat feature on our website, and we'll try to get those answered as well. As far as what we'll cover today, we're going to talk a little bit about our release cycle. It's the same release cycle we've been doing since 4.0, but we'll talk through the different types of Right-Click Tools releases and what you can expect out of each of those. We'll do a feature overview of everything that's new in 4.3 and follow it up with a live demo of some of the more impactful features that we've released in 4.3. Then Scott will take us through a couple of tools to get the download from our website. Talk about the process for enterprise customers as well as community users. And then we'll leave some time at the end for an extended Q&A session where Marty, Brian, and myself will try to answer any questions that you might have live on the air. For the release cycle, not much has changed since 4.0. We've been doing monthly releases since October of last year, and we've hit them fairly consistently. We did delay our April release this time around a little bit because we wanted to sneak in that ConfigMgr fast channel feature. But for the most part, we've hit one monthly release every month, and you can usually expect to see some bug fixes, some features in these releases, but we don't expect that the majority of customers or users are going to keep up to date with every monthly release. You might stay up to date if you find a bug and we ask you to update to because we fixed the bug in a monthly release, but for the most part, it's okay to stay on those quarterly releases. If you do want to stay on the newest version available, you can enable bug fix notifications inside of Configure Recast RCT or inside of your Recast Management Server settings UI. The quarterly releases are when we typically do these webinars. They happen every 3 months, and they're basically a roll-up of the last couple of months worth of updates. Update notifications for quarterly releases are on by default, but if you want to double check that you're seeing those, you can go into Configure Recast RCT again or the Recast Management Server settings UI and make sure that's still enabled. As far as what's new in 4.3 at a high level, we introduced right-click tools over the fast channel in the April release, although it really improved in the May release. We improved Recast Management Server performance by up to 10x in certain scenarios. Ton of work, again, working with Marty and our customers went into that, and we'll talk through that a little bit. We added auto approval for Recast Proxy and Recast Agent, and we actually split Recast Proxy into two components. It used to just be Recast Proxy, and we talked about Device Proxy and Service Account Proxy. What was known as Recast Device Proxy is now known as Recast Agent in 4.3, so that's a major change. We'll talk a little bit more about that. The final four here, we're actually going to do a live demo on. So the send notification tool, some updates to the system information tool. We added right-click tools in new areas, and we added a new dashboard that Brian's going to show us later. So why might you want to use right-click tools on the ConfigMgr fast channel? There are a couple of reasons that we thought of. Number one, it enables you to run right-click tools without needing admin rights on the remote device. A typical right-click action is going to rely on remote WMI, remote registry, remote SMB to reach out to that device, and a lot of times you do need admin rights to run those actions. With the Config Manager Fast Channel, we're actually utilizing the Config Manager client's permissions. So it's running as local system on the device. So when we run that action, it's running as local system, and it doesn't need the user running the action to have those permissions. It also removes the need to open any firewall ports onto the remote devices. Because the Config Manager Fast Channel is maintaining a persistent connection with the management point, it's able to receive actions from your Config Manager infrastructure rather than having something reach out to the devices, right? It's a client-initiated connection, so it doesn't need any ports coming into it. No need to worry about remote WMI, admin shares, remote registry, anything like that. And the last kind of reason to do this, and I think it's probably the biggest reason to do our Config Manager Fast Channel support specifically, is that it enables you to run right-click tools over the cloud management gateway. So you can actually hit devices that aren't on your corporate network. And we spun up a CMG to make sure this worked internally, and it works as expected. And this is really powerful because you no longer need your users to VPN in order to gather information to help troubleshoot their systems, right? So it lowers the bar to managing those remote systems a little bit. I will say too that if you're only looking for those first 2 bullet points, we do have an alternate solution in Recast Agent that is actually the fastest way to run right-click tools at scale. So if you're only looking to remove admin rights or remove the requirements for remote firewall ports, it's probably worth looking at Recast Agent to see if that can take away those needs as well. As far as architecture, how does the right-click tools over Fast Channel work? It all starts with the right-click tools pointed at Recast Management Server. Inside the Recast Management Server, we have this concept called routes, and we added this new Config Manager Fast Channel route into it that lets you take any actions that are targeted to devices and then send them over to the Config Manager server. And the mechanism by which it does that is through Recast Proxy. Recast Proxy acts as the translation layer between the actions that are provided by the right-click tools and what the Config Manager infrastructure expects. So it translates the right-click tools action into the PowerShell execution on the Config Manager site server. And then the Config Manager server reaches out to those clients via that fast channel and tells them to run the Recast provided PowerShell script. We do require that you import a PowerShell script in order to make this work. It's actually included in the extras folder of the 4.3 release inside of your right-click tools installation. So you just have to import it, approve it. The Recast proxy knows which script it's looking for because we detect it by the hash value of the script, and it'll just automatically run that. And another thing to note is that we do require Recast Agent be installed on those Config Manager clients, but we don't require that you configure your Recast Agent to hit the Recast Management Server. There are a couple of reasons we kind of chose this architecture. Number one, it really increased the speed at which we could deliver this feature. By using a WMI provider on those Config Manager clients, it enabled us to just use the same right-click tools infrastructure that we use today to run those actions without rewriting the entire stack, right? If we were to support it in a different way, it would involve a much longer development cycle, similar to the 3.2 to 4.0 migration, which took almost a year. So we didn't want to have to bite that off again. And it enabled us to use the modularity of the routing layer inside a Recast Management Server. The routing layer in the server is designed to customize how actions are run in your environment. And by introducing a new route into Recast Management Server, it allowed us to leverage that flexibility that was inherent to Recast Management Server without, again, rewriting a bunch of code. The other reason we require that WMI provider is actually to work around the message size limitations inside of the Config Manager Fast Channel. We needed some sort of way to cache the results on the Config Manager clients themselves, because some of our recast actions actually return more data than the fast channel supports. So think things like the System Information Tool Add Remove Programs tab. Many devices have quite a number of programs installed in their Add Remove Programs list, and we were finding that amount of data was just too much to send back to that Config Manager site server. So we added the WMI provider on those clients so that it would cache the results. And actually, when you run an action against a device, we might be running that PowerShell script multiple times against that device to both run the action and then multiple times to gather the results, depending on how large that result set is. So a couple of reasons why we chose this architecture, but just note that if you want to use the fast channel, you do have to install Recast Agent in a standalone mode on your ConfigMgr clients. As far as some of the performance improvements go, we improved our scope evaluation performance by up to 10x. So for those of you using recast scopes as a way to limit your permissions or to define where you run your right-click tools, you'll see a big improvement performance in 4.3. And we did that by introducing a proxy settings cache. We moved the audit log to the background thread. We did a couple of other things there that we're not going to go into depth on. We also improved streaming support in 4.3. So in 4.1, we introduced what we called streaming support for the right-click tools. It is basically large collection support. So you ran an action on 10,000 devices or so. Instead of sending it all up in one big message, we would split the message up and stream it up to the server. In 4.3, we improved that streaming support, so now actions start running before the right-click tools finish sending the action up to the server. So what you'll see is that this reduces the time to the first result for large collections. So if you're running things against 10 devices versus 10,000 devices, you won't see a linear time increase in the amount of time it takes to get that first message back from the device. Instead, you should see a relatively similar response time no matter what size collection you're hitting. And there's more performance improvements to come here. Marty's been working with some customers on more suggestions, and we are digging into this some more too. We also have some troubleshooting improvements to Recast Management Server and other UI tweaks. So I mentioned the automatic approval options for proxies and agents. In 4.2 and earlier, you had to manually approve each proxy and agent that you installed in your site. With 4.3, by default, we changed the defaults to automatic approval for devices and trusted domains, so that if you installed the proxy or the agent on a device that was in the same domain as your Recast Management Server, it'll just auto approve. You don't have to go into the web UI and approve it. And we also added an option to automatically approve any agent and proxy that enrolls in your Recast Management Server infrastructure. This should look fairly familiar. It's the same set of options that the ConfigMgr site uses when approving ConfigMgr clients in your site. So we modeled it after that same concept. So it shouldn't be too much of a stretch to apply for proxies and agents. As far as troubleshooting goes, we added some execution time auditing on the audit log. We added a proxies button to the audit log so you could see which proxies were trying to execute your actions to help troubleshoot routing. And we improved scope troubleshooting by adding some more information on the scopes tab, as well as allowing you to manually repopulate and clear your scopes if you're concerned about if the scope has the right data or not. All right, so now it's time to move on to the features demo. And the first thing we're going to show is the system information tool. And I should note that everything I'm going to show here is going to be running over the fast channel. So if I hit refresh here, it's going to refresh the action. And if I come over to the monitoring node real quick, just to show the fast channel support, it's actually going to show a script running on this monitoring node. And the script is what's going to actually return the results to the system information tool. And we've obviously been doing a little bit too much testing of our run scripts feature, so this is taking a little bit of time. But you can see we have a script named Mamie McNamerson. Like we said, we don't actually care what the script is called when we run it. We're just looking for a hash value. And if I go to the properties here, I can see the script output along with the the input parameters that were run against that device. And all of the data is actually coming from that fast channel. So that's pretty cool. And one thing to note here is we actually have a device that's only connected over that cloud management gateway. So that data is coming from the CMG, without touching our internal infrastructure at all. So that's pretty cool. And then the user sessions tab is the new feature inside of the system information tool. And this is really useful for just seeing who's logged into a device, how long they've been logged in for, and allowing you to log them off of that device. And it'll take just a second to load because we're going over that fast channel. It takes a little bit longer. But as I drill in here, I can see Mark is logged into Recast PC01, but his state is disconnected. So if I'm remoting into that box, I should be able to remote into that box without bothering him. But I see Brian is connected there, right? So if I wanted to remote into PC01, well, maybe I want to select it and log him off before doing that. I'm totally free to do that. And this should look relatively familiar for those of you who use Task Manager a lot. It's actually the same information that's available inside of here, right? We have the same kind of session name over here, RDP TCP5. We can actually see where we're connected from. So we can see that Brian is connected from a machine named desktop, JP QAN, how long he's been logged in for, how long he's been idle, how long he's been disconnected, if he has been disconnected, and his current status. So a lot of useful information there for those of you who share RDP sessions with other users. And now I'm going to hand it over to Brian to talk a little bit more about some of the other features that are available in 4.3.
Just real three things I want to go over. The first one is very, very straightforward. We had a bunch of requests on the feature request board about adding the right-click tools into certain areas. And those, I love those requests. Those are the easy ones. I mean, it's called the right-click tools. We kind of joke we have one job is making things right-click. And so what happens here is the product team's doing a great job. They're adding new stuff and new dashboards and new nodes. And every time they do that, it's kind of a cat and mouse sort of situation. They create something new, and we need to go in and add, make some very simple changes to go ahead and make sure that our tools are supported in that area. And so, a couple of things that have come up recently: the Office 365 node, the Edge management node, some of the analytics stuff. And so an example here was, well, the readiness. We get these charts, and you can actually, this isn't universal, but you can actually drill down into these things. And if you came in here, you couldn't right click on these and start running our tools on it. And so that's a very easy thing for us to fix, generally speaking. The other one I went through was monitoring. I went through all this, the whole monitoring node, and I tried to find anywhere where our tools currently weren't there. When it's specifically the client health or client check one, as well as these production and pre-production nodes. I also went through all the other ones to look as well, but the whole idea here is you click on here, and this object in the console has a GUID associated. You can actually see what that is right here. And so for us, it's just a matter of, okay, well, they added a new thing, it has a new GUID, and we just need to go ahead and add it to the product. And this, again, it's not hard for us to do. And the whole reason I'm talking about this is because if you see something like that, we really want you to go ahead and let us know. I don't care how you do it. The best way to do it is to go to our feature request board and say, hey, can you go ahead and add the right click tools here? And we will do our darndest to try and get that out into the next release, because generally speaking, it's just a matter of figuring out what that GUID is and adding it into the tools. So again, that whole thing is, if you see somewhere where we're missing, the right tools should be there and they're not, go ahead and let us know, because we would love to go ahead and fix that. So the second thing I want to show you is a new tool we added, and this was actually something that, actually the two tools I'm going to show you are things that Mark Godfrey wrote. And the first thing is a notification tool. So I'm going to go ahead and find my test box here. I'm going to go here, and under console tools, there's a new send notification. And we click on there, we'll have the send notification tool. So some simple stuff, there's some simple stuff here and some stuff that requires some explanation. Obviously, title, message, and image. Put in your title. Go ahead and do that. You can also select an image. And I want to actually say this is actually both an enterprise and a community tool. So if you're a community user and you're listening along, you'll be able to use this tool. What you will miss is the ability to select your own specific image. I think it will default to our Recast logo. So if I go ahead and do this on this box, we're going to go ahead and run it. And what you'll actually see on this device here is it's actually going to create, it's gone and created these two scheduled tasks. And the reason for that is that's how we get around the, hey, we're running something as system, but we want to actually run it in the user space for each of these users. So it's actually going to take a second. There's a bit of a pause in there just to make sure that that the scheduled task just gets created, and you'll see it. Let's refresh here. There we go, and there you go. So there's the title, message, and there's the image. A couple of things that's worth talking about here under advanced setting is you'll see what it did is we have three possible options. The first one is the recast toast notification. That's our own custom notification tool. And what the tool's going to try and do is when you run this, it's going to actually over SMB try and push our tool to that endpoint so that we can run our own custom tool. And that allows us to give you that image. This is of the three options we talk about, this is the only one that allows you to specify an image. And the reason for that is because it's our own custom tool. But what if that doesn't work for some reason? There's other mechanisms, there's other ways of showing notifications to users. So let's go ahead and do this again on the same box. And what we're going to do now is in this advanced settings, by default, it selects all three methods. And what it's going to try and do, and I'll let it focus here on the, is that it'll actually try these methods in the specific order. We'll try and send the toast notification using our recast tool. And if that doesn't work, then we'll fail over to the CM toast notification tool that I'll show you now. And then lastly, it will, the last resort is the Windows pop-up message, which again, I'll show you. But you can select or deselect these if you just want to use one. You can just use one. You can't reorder them, but you can choose to use them or not individually. So let's just go ahead, and you see because we deselected the recast notification, we're not able to actually send an image. So we'll go ahead and just do that. Same thing on this side. What's going to happen is we have a CM toast schedule task, and in 30 seconds or so that should go ahead and hit, and we'll see that message come up. And there, beautiful, title and message. Let's show you quickly the last one. What I actually like about this last method, it's actually tied on to the earlier features that Chris showed you with the session information. So built into that same session information was the ability to actually send a dialogue. And because of it's using the it's actually the remote desktop protocol API essentially, and it's very, very quick, right? We don't need, because of the way it works, we don't need to do the sort of workaround of having the scheduled task. And so you can do this, and immediately it's going to go ahead and notify all the users on this device. So that's the send notification tool. We think that's, this is again, everything we always show you is sort of like the first effort, right? This is our first sort of iteration of this. So we look forward to hearing about, hearing some feedback and seeing if there's ideas for how to improve it, or the kind of use cases you might see for something like this. The last thing I want to show you is a new dashboard. Again, this was written by Mark Godfrey. It's a content distribution monitor, and the sort of backstory in this one is we actually have some really nice content management tools, but the way you kind of would use them was sort of buried. It's way down in the console, and we wanted to provide our customers with a more visual way to get a handle on your content distribution. My last organization we had 260 plus distribution points, right? And wrangling those things was a huge task. And so Mark wrote this, and what's going to show you here is here's your distribution points, and just very visually, blue and red, how successful they are. So we have 3 in our environment. You can go ahead and click on here, and you can see, hey, here's the 23 packages that have been successful, and all their information. But what you probably really care about is the stuff that's not, right? And so here we have our distribution failed content that Mark nicely created. And the key thing is you can right click on these and take further action, right? So you can delve into their status more. You can kick off a redistribution. You can remove it from the DP. You can validate it. In addition to that, sort of on the individual DP level, we have this sort of big, this big button here, which says, well, go ahead and redo all your failed content. And I think for a lot of us, that'll be sort of the first thing you do. You come in here and you kick off a redistribution of all your failed content, then come back in an hour or so, refresh it, and then start digging down into the stuff that is still continuing to fail. And again, I want to reiterate that, especially on this one, this is like our first effort. We actually had lots and lots of discussions about how to make this really work for people. We brought Mark to the very brink of rage quitting, which is right where we like him. And so what we want to hear back is, this is great, but could it do this? And in those cases, go to our feature request. Scott added a link to that in the chat there. Give us your feedback on this and what kinds of things you want to, what kind of information you want, how you kind of want to see it, and then if there's other kinds of actions that we're not thinking about that you want to take on that data. So with that, I'm finished. Scott, if you want to take it over.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. That was great. So that is it for the demos. I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to show you guys real quick how you can get the newest version. If you are an enterprise user, you can go into the portal. You can see all the newest releases. Down here will be the release notes, and then you can download on the right side there. If you are a community user, we have forms on our website to download the newest version. Also on the website, I'll show you is the product. No matter which page you are on the website, on top there will be a button to click, and it will always scroll down to the bottom, and you can get the tools right there. You can also see different features we have, pricing, resources if you need help, enterprise support. This is where you can find Marty, and up top you can contact sales or on the but that's about it for the website. So then I'll hand it over to Marty and let him answer any of your guys' remaining questions.
Excellent. Hey, everybody. My name is Marty, and I am the Customer Success Manager here at Recast. I've had probably the opportunity to speak with some of you and helping you out and maybe setting up your environments. So that's been great. What we are about right now is answering questions. So if you have any questions about 4.3 and the right-click tools or the Recast Management Server, any of that kind of stuff, we would love to answer those. So you can go ahead and post them right in the Q&A, and we can answer right from there.
So we have a question from Jeff. Is there a quick way to tell if you're using the fast channel with the right-click tools? I would say the best bet is to come over here to script status. That's what I usually do, and sort descending by client operation ID. That way the newest script executions are going to drift to the top. And the reason you sort by that instead of dates is that before the script is finished running, this date doesn't actually get populated. So it's best to start by that operation ID, and then you can right click and show status and kind of see where your scripts are at. And you'll usually see on the script details here, you'll see something like plugin name, action name. These will look like things you might see in RCT Builder. So that's usually your best bet to know that that's actually a recast script. And the mode will always either be run action or get results. Good question.
Would you see it in the audit log on RMS?
So you might see it in the audit log. It'll, let me refresh this real quick. It'll look, so if you hit proxies here, that's actually not showing up there right now, but it'll typically tell you the recast proxy that you've configured inside a route. So if I come over here to routes and look at my config manager fast channel route, you can see RMS prod is the proxy name here. It'll tell you that it was sent to that proxy. So it's not the best way to find it.
Yeah.
I usually like to use the monitoring node.
Right. In the more general sense, like most the direct UI for the tool itself isn't going to tell you, hey, we ran it on the fast channel. And part of that is because we actually what Chris is showing here, right? There's so many possible routes. A lot of our customers have very simple routes, but the reason for routes is because we trying to support some very more complex scenarios, and so making that part of the return value isn't there, right? You're not going to know, hey, this is the route that this ran on.
Yeah, and really the goal behind that is to make the right-click tools experience as simple as it can be for the end user. Like, they don't need to know if a device is in an untrusted domain. They don't need to know if it's a workgroup device or anything like that.
Right.
The idea is that the Recast admin sets up the routes and tries to make it so that the actions just work regardless of where they're targeting those actions.
Exactly. Which is why we were so excited about making the support happen, because we've knocked down several sort of, hey, untrusted domains. We created a solution for that. Workgroup devices, right? We kept trying to find ways of getting around things, and then that finally with the whole COVID thing as well. Like, what about remote devices? And so we were super happy you can really, at this point, I think we feel pretty comfortable saying, if the device is connected to ConfigMgr in pretty much any way, we have a solution to run our tools upon.
Next question, we have one. It says, Recast Management Server is an add-on or independent product compared to ConfigMgr. So the Recast Management Server, really, I would call it separate from ConfigMgr. Obviously, we're using it to run actions through our ConfigMgr console, but the management server itself can exist anywhere. It doesn't need to exist on a ConfigMgr server. Probably it's about 50-50 that we have customers who do install it on their ConfigMgr server. It's actually just kind of makes it an easier lift, because all of the things that we need, like IIS and newest version of .NET and SQL connection, all of those things already exist in ConfigMgr, so a lot of people will put it right on their server, but it certainly doesn't need to be. It can be installed on its own server separately as well. Can we make toast pop-ups recurring? I actually went into Builder on our new version and just looked, and there is a Builder action to do the Recast Toast pop-up. So the answer is yes, but it would be as a Builder action.
Yeah, and what I'll add to that is how I was talking about those 3 different notification tools, right? They'll be in Builder. You should see 3 different. Those are 3 different tools. So in Builder, you could pick one or all of them in theory, and make an action with them.
Do the community tools work over the Cloud Managed Gateway or only the enterprise version? Because of the infrastructure that needs to be in place, like we need the Recast agent and we need to set the routes and that kind of thing, this is only going to work in the enterprise version. It actually does need the Recast Management Server in order to work over the Cloud Managed Gateway, which is the management server is part of enterprise. Enterprise function, we don't have anything in scripts. So this is talking, I believe, about the fast channel setting it up. There are a couple really good things that really good resources that I actually want to point you to. Both in our blog and in our documentation, we have information on setting that up. That script is actually something that you need to import into ConfigMgr and then get it approved and all that kind of stuff so that you can actually have it run actions in your environment. So what I would recommend is actually definitely going and checking out our documentation as well as our blog post about setting that up as well. Is it clickable to open, say, the Software Center into a specific app? I think maybe we're talking about a notification. Like, can we have have the notification load Software Center or into a specific thing? I guess I'm not completely sure about what that's asking.
Yeah, I think that is right, Marty. I think the ability to open links in Software Center was another question that we had before, related to when Brian was doing the notification feature. I don't believe that's possible today, but I think that'd be a really good one to add to the feature request board. I think a lot of people will get value out of that.
Yeah, when I was talking with Mark about there is actually a limit on the number of characters. It's 135 that can go into the notification. He also mentioned that URLs are not going to be clickable, but it is something that we could possibly do. So definitely something that would be good as a feature request. Is system information available in the Community Edition? Yes, system information is available in the Community Edition. Correct me if I'm wrong, other gentlemen on the call, but it is available just for a single device rather than clicking on a collection or multiple devices.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. The system information is that tool has been around for a very long time. So along with some of the other tools that we sort of revamped the UI and made them work at scale, they were community tools originally, and so they will stay that way. I think, and you hit the nail on the head. The delineation there is really between one device and multiple.
Great.
Yeah, and
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to riff on that. Some parts of the system info tool will work on multiple devices too. So some of the tabs will work in community on multiple devices. As Brian mentioned before, we did update the UI, and we wanted to make sure when we updated that UI, we didn't regress any community features. So we made sure to maintain one-to-one mapping for those.
Another question about setting up fast channel. Again, I'm going to point right back to the documentation in the blog. Going to be probably the best resources. If you still get stuck after looking at the blog or the documentation, then absolutely go ahead onto our support page and let us know, and we will help you out to make that work, because we want to make sure that you get the most out of your install that you possibly can.
Yeah, something I do want to say that on that, because I think this question came up when Chris was talking about it, like the fast channel, right? The fast channel is a function of Configuration Manager, but not everybody has kind of heard it referred to that by name, because like the fast channel isn't a feature. It's part of the infrastructure of Config Manager upon which features are built. So when we're saying fast channel, kind of what we really mean is we're using the scripts feature, right? And I'm not going to go into, because Chris all described it, right? We're using that scripts feature to reach out to the device. Scripts works over what is Configuration Manager's fast channel infrastructure, which is why it works over the CMG. And then as Marty's pointing out here, you have to set that script up, and there's some work, and we have documentation and even a webinar on how to do that. So the fast channel is that's a Config Manager infrastructure thing. We're really, you can, if it helps in your mind, Config Manager, substitute that with Config Manager scripts.
Yeah, I posted links to the blog and the doc site in the chat.
Is it possible to improve the add computers to collection so that it shows a finish button rather than having to scroll down at the list of added machines? Honestly, this is another great thing for our feature requests. It doesn't have to be a whole new, this is a really good point, because it doesn't have to be a whole new amazing feature that you really, really want to see. Maybe it's just the thing that just drives you a little bit crazy every time that you have to use it. Absolutely let us know. Without feedback, we don't know what's causing headaches or what's causing bottlenecks. So it's a great thing to be able to find out those things so that we can make changes and fix them.
Yeah, in that particular one, I think we have a feature that's in planned for that right now too. So go ahead and upvote that feature. I think we intended to do that for 4.3, just ran out of time.
And I just added a link into the chat, because yeah, we have an existing feature request for improve add computers to collection feature.
Perfect. Discuss more about the PowerShell that needs to run for fast channel. So I'm not exactly sure what specifically you are looking for, but that is essentially the script that needs to get imported. We do, I think we're probably navigating to where that is located, but you actually do need to go ahead and bring that script in and then approve it essentially so that it can actually be run in your environment. Once again, documentation on this does say what it actually does or how to get it in there essentially.
It's a pretty boring script, right?
Yeah.
We have an if statement, and then we call into our WMI provider. It doesn't do a whole lot. Most of the script is just the signing of the script. So the meat of it is really this 8 lines of code here.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Chris.
and all of that is simply involved in getting the parameters to that WMI provider, and then the reverse, getting the results.
Very good. Is right-click extensible so that other SDCM console extension can identify if right-click is installed, and if so, then utilize its functionality?
That's a great question. If you have Recast Management Server, we do have an undocumented REST API that you could probably utilize to do what you're intending to do. So that would require Enterprise in order to do that. We've talked about adding some in product documentation on Recast Management Server's APIs, so that when you browse to the Recast Management Server site, maybe over on the left pane, there's an API thing, and you can kind of browse the API that way with examples, but we just haven't gotten that far yet. Great question. I think we'd be willing to talk through that if that's something you wanted to do.
I have right-click tools installed. I don't see anything under script status. So it is definitely something that you actually need to import and then have approved. So just installing right-click tools 4.3 isn't going to get the PowerShell script up and running for the fast channel and Cloud Managed Gateway setup, but it is something that we have documentation about.
Yeah, and there's a lot more steps than just getting the script approved, right? You have to make sure your proxy is connected and ready to go, and then you have to set up a route and a scope, and check out the documentation or the video. I think we actually go into depth on how to do this in our last fast channel webinar as well.
Yep, good point. Can the toast notifications be scheduled for the future? So once again, that would be a potential thing that could be done in the builder application. It is not currently something that's in the send notification. If you're just setting it up to send the notification, maybe that could also be a feature request that you would want to see potentially. When I set up the Recast server, I don't really understand the route thing. Can I get you guys to help me set up these routes when I do set up my Cloud Managed Gateway? Absolutely, we would be more than willing and able to help you out with how to set up routes and how to think about routes. One of the things that I think has been, for me, one of the things that has been very useful is just kind of getting an idea of how those routes work, and thinking about basically the order that they're running. So definitely you can absolutely also do this, what is being shown on the screen right here. Go ahead and schedule a support call if you'd like to. That interacts directly with my calendar, so you can see what I have available to talk and to help out with whatever you need. So definitely something that we would be willing to do. That's what we're here for. Is there a cheat sheet or reference guide for right-click features? So that's going to be our documentation website. We'll have all the information on the right-click tools. So that's going to be at docs.recastsoftware.com. That's our documentation site. There is also on our regular website, there is a features page as well. So here it's going to show them directly, but then you can also go to find what might be an enterprise feature compared to the regular community features as well. Will there be a recording available after the live stream? Yes, there absolutely will be recording available after this live stream's done. Is there an audit log? Oh, go ahead.
I think usually Scott can pipe in here. I think usually we when those are posted, we send an update to all the attendees.
Yep, so it'll be posted to our YouTube channel, and we'll be sending out an update to all of you guys to make sure you have it.
Great. Is there an audit log of actions performed with right-click tools? The answer is in the enterprise version on the Recast Management Server, there is an audit log right here that shows all of the actions that have been run via right-click tools. And we actually can get information actually of what the results are of the things that have run. And we can even use some of that for troubleshooting as well. But yes, there is an audit log that is part of the Recast Management Server, so it's part of the Enterprise Edition. Can we install multiple proxies on the same machine? So proxy, no, you're going to have one proxy on a machine. Essentially, it's actually running a service account, or running a service that's running as a service, running under a service account that can run actions or get information about your environment. So you're going to have those on different machines. Can you also, actually, I'm going to add on to this though, because you can actually put an agent and a proxy on the same machine if you want to. Agents are, I always think of them as a little right-click tools client that's running on the device, and it enables us to communicate directly from the server to that computer. So you could have an agent and a proxy on a device if you wanted to, but one proxy on a machine.
And just to add to that too, we have talked internally about supporting multiple user accounts on the Recast proxy. If you wouldn't mind giving us more detail on your use case, either on the feature request board or in the chat or something, I'd be really interested to know what you want to use the multiple Recast proxies for, because it is something we've talked about, and we just haven't had the push from customers to say, hey, we really want this feature.
Yeah, and I will say it wouldn't necessarily be, for us, it's not exactly non-trivial, because you're talking about, it gets weird to implement that kind of thing, especially because currently it's a server, right? We get that service account by actually running the service that way, and that's set up at install time. And so we totally do it. It's just not like 10 lines of code.
Absolutely. Can you install the management server and proxy on the same server? Yes, that's actually something that we do quite often in our setups. And actually, as you run through the Recast Management Server install, it will actually ask you if you would like to install a Recast proxy on that same device right at that same time. The nice thing about that, and I'll just throw this out there, another nice thing about that actually is when you do the upgrade, to upgrade your management server, because it's all part of that same installer, your upgrade will also upgrade your Recast proxy. There have been some situations where if you don't update your proxy and management server goes up far enough, they won't talk to each other correctly. So it's always good to keep everything at the same version, and that's an easy way to do it, is to have those together. Is there a version of Windows 10 that we need to be able to run fast channel over? I honestly don't remember the answer to that question. If there,
no, that's a client. The fast channel is a feature of Configuration Manager. So any supported version of Windows 10 or Windows Server will support. Now it's the version of Config itself. That's actually what matters. And so I think this actually came up in the Q&A. Somebody asked about Config Manager 2012 R2. Well, it doesn't technically. It also gets to what I was talking about earlier between fast channel versus scripts. 2012 R2, I think, actually does have scripts, the scripts feature, or sorry, has the fast channel, but doesn't have the scripts feature. So I think the scripts feature came in like Config Manager current branch, like 16 or 17 or something. So as long as you're on a supported version of current branch, you have the scripts feature, and thus our fast channel support will work.
Very good. Thank you. Is there a webinar training on how to set up and configure proxies? There is some documentation on our doc site about setting up proxies. I'm guessing there's also some blog information about doing that. If you do have further questions, I'm definitely going to shout out to go ahead and do check our support. I'd be more than willing to help you walk through how to think about those and how to work with those. That is one of the things that I am planning on doing more documentation on, but definitely let us know if you have trouble with setting up and configuring them, or if you're not finding what you need on our website.
Yeah, and we've actually had internal conversations about maybe having that type of webinar happen between releases. We've been trying to do monthly webinars, between the dot release webinars, and that was an area that we've thought about doing as well. And so keep an eye out. We might do that in the near future.
Do we do anything with ConfigMgr client health? We do some very basic things with ConfigMgr client health. If you actually click on a device, go to right-click tools, and the client tools has the repair client, and you can uninstall it. So that is pretty much what we have available for the ConfigMgr. Or I guess you can look at logs as well to find out more information. But yeah, as far as that ConfigMgr client health, that's kind of where our expertise ends, or where our tools end with the ConfigMgr client health. I think one of the things that we've talked about is the ConfigMgr client can fail in a myriad of ways, and it's often an uninstall and reinstall that is going to potentially help as much as anything.
Yeah, we definitely had those conversations, right? That question has been asked before, and we're not. I don't think we're categorically against going down into that road. I think it would take. I would say go add something to the feature request and get specific, right? Because people say, well, what do you do about client health? Well, we could talk all day. At least I could. I could talk all day about that. We're not against it. It's just what would be helpful, right? What's specifically helpful that doesn't already exist, whether in our products or, there's a bunch of widely used and available open source projects for that. So not against it. We would just need a lot of feedback from customers, and specific feedback, like very specific, like, here's within the umbrella is client health, but we want you to fix group policy processing issues. And here's the specific problem we have. Here's the thing we do to automate it. Can we wrap that up into a tool?
Is there a limit on the number of kiosk profiles you can have? I don't know of a limit of the number of kiosk profiles that you can have.
There shouldn't be. It's stored in a database table that grow indefinitely.
There's got to be a limit somewhere.
Yeah, the size of your database. Is that
well, I mean, at some point, like, there's a practical limit of the UI probably explodes. So I mean, like, is there a limit? Probably. Let us know when you hit it.
There
we'll
you go.
Document it.
Let us know if you are having trouble with the number of kiosk profiles that you have. That's a great point.
I kind of think that the question that'll come up before that is, can you add search to the profile? Because that would be a good feature request.
That's a good idea, Brian. Did you write
I know,
it up?
right? Like, if you really do have like 200 of these things, let us know that and be like, hey, Chris should go ask search to this.
It looks like we have a question in the YouTube chat about client health. Does right-click tools show up in the client health sticky views?
Brian,
They should as a 4.3.
Let's find out.
They should as a 4.3. That's what I demoed.
This thing. I don't have the right environment for this, do I? Yeah. Yes.
There you go. Awesome.
Yeah. if you scroll down there on that dashboard, is there a, yeah, that's what the status message is. We're there. Good. Okay. Yep. That was one I went through, so I was just wanted to sanity check.
To make sure we were there everywhere.
Yeah.
All right, one more question in the chat. Does the repair option actually do the uninstall and reinstall? So if we hit repair client, what actually is happening in the background?
I believe we're just calling either CCM setup repair or doing an MSI repair. I don't actually remember which.
Okay.
But we aren't doing a full uninstall and reinstall. For that, you would have to actually run our uninstall, and then when it was done, go and use the built-in install client.
Which would be a great. Wow. Do we have an install? Yeah, we
Nope.
don't have an install. Yeah,
It's on the feature request board somewhere though.
Yeah, it would be a great feature request, because the install you could do with, like, if we had a install action, then you could at least write that tool with Builder. The problem with the install, of course, is you often want to give it custom parameters. So, but we could handle that.
All right, I think things are pretty quiet. Should I hand it back over to you, Scott?
Yeah, I think that's it. Really just thank you everyone so much for coming. We love interacting with you guys. We're happy to put this on for you guys, and to see that so many people enjoy the webinars and the tools, it means a lot to us. If you guys have any questions, you know where to find us on our website. You can also reach out to us on Twitter or on Reddit. And thank you to Brian and Chris and Marty as well for giving us their time. And I think that's it. So I hope everyone has a great day.